advice is fertilizer and soil conditioner basics.
Fertilizers are certainly an important ingredient in helping plants, trees, and grasses grow, but they must be used properly to be effective. Now, you can aid your customer in determining the right type of fertilizer to use, the right amount to apply, and the right time to spread it.
To properly grow, plants and grasses need 4 things: oxygen, water, light, and nutrients. Plants get nutrients from the soil, and fertilizers replenish the soil with nutrients.
Excuse me?
Hi.
Hi, how are you? What do these 3 numbers on the fertilizer bag mean?
Well, they indicate the percentage of the 3 primary nutrients in the fertilizer. And this is important because it helps you determine the best type of fertilizer for your particular planting situation. The first number is the percent of nitrogen in the package. The second is the percent of phosphorus, and the third is the percent of potassium. So, in this particular product, 32% is nitrogen, 2% is phosphorus, and 4% is potassium. Now, all 3 nutrients play a major role in building healthy plants and grasses.
I need to fertilize my lawn, so what types of numbers should I be looking for?
You want to use a fertilizer that's high in nitrogen.
Each of the 3 elements provides different benefits. Nitrogen encourages good leaf growth and greening. For example, if your customer wants a healthy green lawn, recommend a fertilizer with enough nitrogen to help the grass recover each time it's mowed. Phosphorus helps root systems, seedlings, flowers, and vegetables develop. So when your customer says she needs a fertilizer for her newly planted lawn or her plant seedlings, recommend one that's high in phosphorus. The third nutrient, potassium, promotes vegetable, flower, and root growth. It also builds tolerance to disease, drought, and cold. Potassium is what gives grass its resiliency. If your customer wants her plants to look good and be healthy, recommend a fertilizer with adequate potassium. In addition to the 3 primary nutrients, there are other elements in fertilizers such as boron, copper, iron, manganese, and zinc. These nutrients also aid in growing healthy, beautiful plants. Just read the label and you'll see the percentages of every nutrient in the fertilizer package. The labels help you determine the best fertilizer for a particular situation.
I've noticed several different types of fertilizers, so what actually makes them different and when are they used?
Well, there are 4 major types of fertilizers: granular, time-release granular, water-soluble, and organic. And each has its own appropriate use. Granular fertilizers are spread around plants in the garden or on the lawn, and they provide an even, consistent feeding as you work them into the soil or water them into the lawn. Most lawn fertilizers are granular, and they come in large bags and are applied with a spreader. The time-released fertilizers also come in a granular form. Some are coated, and some have a built-in slow release. Either way, they release nutrients gradually to plants, usually working for 2 to 9 months. And although they initially cost more than commodity granular fertilizers, in the long run, time-release fertilizers offer the best value because they last for a much longer time. They don't need to be applied as often, and they are less likely to leach and add to pollution problems. For lawns, apply time-release fertilizers with a spreader. For new beds, you can mix it right into the soil. And around plants, you can spread it evenly where the roots grow. Water-soluble fertilizers are, of course, mixed with water and sprayed with a garden hose or poured from a watering can. They provide fast results since the fertilizer is almost instantly absorbed through the leaves and roots. If you want quick greening and fast growth, the water-soluble fertilizer may be the way to go.
What can you tell me about organic fertilizers?
Organic fertilizers have become very popular, and they may come from dried animal blood or ground animal bones, cow or horse manure, even from ground fish parts or seaweed. Organic fertilizers generally have a lower nitrogen content than the inorganic fertilizers. However, besides adding nutrients, they also increase the bulk and improve the texture of the soil.
When and how often should I fertilize?
Well, again, that depends on several things.
For plants, tell customers to generally fertilize at the beginning of the growing season. Different plants require different types and amounts of fertilizer. Read the labels on the packages to determine the correct amount of fertilizer for a particular plant and the appropriate application times. For lawns, recommend fertilizing 4 or 5 times a year, at least in a very early spring, then again in late spring, and also in late summer. Because fall weather conditions are ideal for grass development, fertilize in early fall to stimulate root growth. Fertilize again in late fall to extend the green period and promote a healthier, greener lawn the following spring. Depending on the time of the year they're fertilizing, they may also want to include crabgrass, weed, and insect control products with their fertilizer. Deciduous trees should be fertilized as soon as the leaves start to appear. Evergreens require fertilizing in the colder months, Shrubs demand little fertilizer in comparison to plants and lawns. Again, reading the labels help determine the right amounts and number of applications and times of the year to fertilize.
With all these different types of fertilizers, is there one for all applications?
Well, trees, gardens, and flower beds should have specific fertilizers. However, many manufacturers do make a general purpose fertilizer that will work well for various applications. In contrast, remember, lawns need lots of nitrogen, so you should use a fertilizer made especially for lawns.
Well, I'm going to look at all my options. Thanks so much for your help.
You're welcome. Anytime.
In addition to fertilizers, there are soil amendments and conditioners that will improve your customer's soil. Good soil holds air, water, and nutrients, and it encourages roots to spread. Tell the customer to take a soil sample to test for the pH, the measurement of acidity of the soil. Then, based on those results and the customer's observations, you may want to recommend adding soil conditioners. For instance, to raise the soil's pH, suggest adding lime, and just the opposite. Advise adding sulfur to lower the soil's pH. For sandy or dry soil, recommend working peat moss into the soil. Sphagnum peat moss is an organic material that does a really good job of retaining water and nutrients. Some other amendments that may improve the soil are compost bark, mushroom compost, manure, and finely ground bark. What all this boils down to is to help a customer determine his or her fertilizing and soil conditioning needs, ask a few key questions.
Absolutely. Ask questions to find out what he wants to fertilize. See if he's done a soil test, and use the results to help choose the right fertilizer and/or soil conditioner.
Ask her whether she wants a granular, timed release, water-soluble, or organic fertilizer. If necessary, explain the differences. If she doesn't know, point out what the 3 numbers on the package mean. And finally, read the label with the customer to determine how much to apply and how often.
You can always get more information from the manufacturer or the distributor salesperson. Remember, many of your customers' questions can be answered simply by reading and understanding the labels on the package.
That's the basics on fertilizers and soil conditioners. I'll be back in the next segment.